Okay, I've got 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call the March 22nd meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission to order and ask the secretary to read to call the roll, please.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Here. Shelby Township.
Mr. Meredith,
Here, Shelby Township.
Mr. Snyder,
Here, Shelby Township.
Mr. Turner,
Here, Shelby Township.
Mr. Apone,
Here, Florida.
Mr. Grott,
Here in Shelby Township.
and I'm also in Shelby Township. Chairman Moffett, we have a quorum.
Great, and I'm participating as well in Shelby Township. Next item is approve of the agenda.
So move.
It's moved by Moore. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Meredith. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Next item is approve of the minutes of the March 8th meeting.
So move.
It's been moved by
Support.
Turner,
Support.
support by Snyder. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. This evening, we've got 3 presentations, well, actually 4 items, 3 site plans and a planning director's annual report. The first item is site plan number 21-11, Danielle Bohannon for Popeye's Restaurant. If the petitioner or representative is here, if you could state briefly what you're requesting and the reasons for it, please.
You'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, we got it. Sorry, my name is Shaheen Boumaroun with Technical Group. On behalf of Popeye's Restaurants, they're, excuse me, acquiring the existing Hardee's and converting it to a Popeye's. The building square footage will increase slightly to incorporate a second drive-through window, actually a pay window. And the site will be modified to have a double drive-through.
And for the record, Phil Ruggieri appearing as a petitioner and owner of the property with my partners.
Okay. So you promise to have enough chicken sandwiches so there won't be a riot there when you
It's up to
reconfigure the
Phil.
building?
Yeah, we feel pretty
That's-
good about that. Yeah, that's why the double drive-through will take care of a lot of the issues.
All right, very good. Mr. Fiore, you reviewed this for the planning department. Do you want to offer your comments, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So as the applicant stated, this is a full exterior renovation at the very least to the former Hardee's restaurant. The applicant is adding a second drive-through, which shouldn't be a major issue. It's actually pretty commonplace for most of the fast food restaurants to incorporate that second drive-through. And the proposed changes to the site itself, the property still falls in line with the light manufacturing zoning districts. The elevation they're proposing is contemporary, it looks nice, and it fits within the district that it falls in, and it's not out of line with the surrounding properties around it. Most of my comments are fairly adherent to the site plan itself, mostly fairly minor. I don't expect any of my comments to be majorly change the site plan itself, but I'll go through them so that the applicant's aware and they can address them with the final site plan submittal should this be approved. So the first one is to correct the north arrow on the sheet LS1. Identify the zoning of all adjacent parcels. Identify 2 benchmarks on the plan. Show any relevant easements or right-of-way with library and page number. Specify all of the setbacks from the front, side, and rear. Indicate the drive aisle and driveway width. Also indicate the parking space setbacks, and then show the existing trees along the perimeter of the site. And I noticed when I was going through the site plan that sheet C3 is referenced for the trash enclosure and the signage, but it was not included with the submission. However, the trash enclosure will have to meet Shelby Township zoning ordinance standards, and the signage will require a separate application anyway, so I don't see those two being major issues as far as the site approval goes. Anyway, furthermore, include the details for the trash enclosure on your final submittal. Identify that any roof mounted equipment, if there is any, will be screened. And like I said before, the sign application will require a separate application and approval from the planning and zoning department. Other than that, like I said, the proposal is well in line with the light manufacturing district, and I don't have any major concerns with the site itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. To the board, are there any questions or comments on this submission? Okay, seeing none. I do notice that there are two hands are raised. I think Mr. Ruggieri, your hand is raised. You've commented, so why don't you clear that?
I've already commented. Oh, we're good.
Okay, and then there was a 262 extension, final last three numbers. Hand was raised. This isn't a public hearing, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing something.
I think that's Mr. Apone.
Okay,
That was me. I hit the wrong one when I was muting.
I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm happy it was just operator error. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on this request.
Chairman,
Mr. Turner,
I move to approve site plan number 21-11 for Danielle Bohannon, 12285 23 Mile Road, located north of 23 Mile Road, west of Shaner Road, Popeyes Restaurant, subject to the submission of a revised site plan addressing all department comments.
Support.
Support.
so I've got moved by Turner, support by Moore. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Grote,
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapone,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next item is a public hearing, and it's a conditional rezoning request and site plan request, number 01-20 and numbers 21-06 for Damiano Di Mercurio, Village of Shelby Point. I will begin by asking the secretary to read the notice that was published.
Charter Township of Shelby. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, the public hearing will be held via Zoom. You may participate at no cost in the virtual meeting by calling the following number, dial 1-312-626-6799. The meeting ID is 831-3766-9175. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of the following amendment to the zoning map. Applicant Damiano Di Mercurio, DeLucio Building, Guycon LLC, 1120 North Main Street, Rochester, Michigan, 48307. Rezoning request from C1 Retail Business Local and R1B One Family Residential to R4 Multifamily Low Rise. Conditional rezoning petition number 1-20 and site plan number 21-06. Location vacant land east of Van Dyke, south of 26 Mile Road. Vacant land located on the east side of Van Dyke, north of 25 Mile Road. Sidwell number 23-07-03-151-031. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, March 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. via Zoom for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the conditional rezoning and site plan application. Please follow the instructions to attend the meeting via Zoom. Dial 1-312-626-6799 and enter the meeting ID access code 831-3766-9175. Please check the Shelby Township Planning website for further information on the meeting. The application for rezoning and special land use, zoning ordinance text, and zoning map may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the Municipal Building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffett, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published in the Macomb Daily News on March 5th, 2021. There were 83 property owners, 2 applicants, 9 utilities were notified by first-class mail on March 5th, 2021.
Thank you. Mr. Kirk, did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it did.
Great, thank you. Ms. Moore, did we receive any correspondence on this item?
Yes, we did, Mr. Chair. We did receive some correspondence prior to the meeting from a Mr. Wagner. He is opposing the rezoning. Mr. and Mrs. Moran are opposing the rezoning, as well as Mr. Marizano is opposing the rezoning.
Okay, thank you. And just so everyone knows that the board members all received that correspondence well in advance and had the opportunity to review those comments.
Yeah, Mr. Moffett, Attorney Tom Shimatera on behalf of Mr. Yo in Deluso Building. I just wanted to inform you so that we don't waste time, that we have agreed to postpone the conditional rezoning application to revise the site plan according to the Department of Engineering comments. We tried to call earlier to relay that information, but couldn't go through. And we will also, we will be agreeable. We're asking to postpone this conditional rezoning, and we'll consider filing with the ZBA for the variance applications before the next hearing.
Ms. Misich, were you aware of this before?
No, I just logged into the computer right now and seen the email a few minutes before the meeting from Mr. DiMercurio. So I just found out a few minutes before the meeting myself.
I'm reluctant, and Mr. Kirk, I'm gonna call on you on sort of, if he wants to postpone it, if he wants to pull his application, I don't know that can I make him go through it, but people have taken their time to log in. I think folks have reviewed this. I think people have some pretty strong opinions. I know myself, and I'm sure some of my colleagues on the board also have strong opinions. Advise me, please. Counsel me.
Yeah, what we've usually done in these cases is continue with the public hearing. I don't think they want to withdraw their application. They're just looking to postpone it. But in this case, we've already noticed it. My recommendation is proceed with the public hearing. If you want, table it after that to allow them to come back with a revised plan, or proceed to zoning board of appeals. But we've noticed it, so I would proceed with it.
Or we can act, correct?
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, either one.
Okay, very good. All right, so we're gonna proceed unless my colleagues start throwing things at me, and they don't look like they're gonna do that. They're too nice and kind of a body of people. And whether if you want to offer a presentation or not, that's up to you. But I'm going to offer. I will bring it to the public to offer their comments on at least what's been proposed and been submitted. So typically, how this works, I'll call the petitioner or the representative to offer a review of what they're requesting and their reasons for it. I'll then bring it to the board to offer their comments or ask any questions of the petitioner. I'll then open it to the floor and allow the public to offer their comments or ask some questions. Again, not a debate. So what will happen is I will take those comments, I'll write them down, then I'll bring the petitioner back if they choose to offer those questions. Then we'll get our planning department's perspective on what's been submitted, and then we'll act. And again, we're a recommending body in this issue. Ultimately, the township board is going to make the final decision. So with that, and I'm sorry, I didn't kind of catch your name. We were sort of talking over each other. I have you down as a Damiano DiMercurio, and I know that's not who you are. Are you prepared to offer a presentation or no?
We have, speaking up for Damiano, he's here next to me. We have our engineer trying to zoom in right now to make the presentation. We didn't have him available because we were going to request a postponement, but he's trying to zoom in right at the second to make the presentation. That would be Bill Thompson. Damiano, is Bill Thompson zooming in?
Yes, he is. He's trying to zoom in, but he can't get in. Is there something being restricted?
Yeah, we have him on the phone. He's saying he's trying to zoom in, Bill Thompson, but he hasn't been able
Right.
to zoom in.
So is,
We let him in.
Okay,
Oh, thank you, Julie.
okay, inform Bill Thompson he can make the presentation.
Do they need screen sharing?
will he need screen sharing?
I believe so.
Okay.
Screen sharing is open.
Yes, he is screen sharing, to answer your question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Thompson, whenever you're ready.
Are you on, Bill?
I see him. He's muted.
Good evening. This is Bill Thompson from Minor Associates representing Domino DiMercurio and Guy Cockamo. We've reviewed the comments from the review agents, and we would appreciate the opportunity to approach the ZBA and to make changes to our site plan. I understand the intent this evening is to table this until we get those things done. We appreciate.
The board hasn't made any decision. The board, what I think the decision of the board is we're going to move, the commission is going to move forward and then make a decision after we've heard your presentation and we've heard, we were informed 5 minutes ago or 2 minutes ago that there was a decision, that you all had made a decision to postpone it. Frankly, there are people that have committed, their time to offer comments, and I think we're gonna proceed, and then we'll act accordingly.
Okay. I have to pull up my PowerPoint presentation. Can I share screen? Or am I sharing screen right now?
You've been given that authority.
So do you see my presentation?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. Unfortunately, I don't see the share screen mode on here.
Can I ask the host to sort of walk him through that, please?
Sure, it should be at the bottom of your screen. Within the Zoom box, there is a box lit up. It says share, and it has it's a green box with a black arrow pointing upwards.
Unfortunately, I don't see that.
So now on my iPad, it's in the upper right corner. It says share content, green. It's all in green. It says share content in a green box with an arrow pointing up.
I'm sorry, I don't see that. Unfortunately, I don't see a way to share screen on my computer.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, why don't you at least give us a verbal
Okay.
description of what it is your client is proposing, please.
This project is part of a larger project that's been in front of the planning commission 2 or 3 times over the last 6 or 7 years. This is the remainder of about an 8-acre parcel. The front portion was rezoned via consent agreement to commercial, although it was actually was zoned C1 at the time. And it leaves a small sliver of C2 plus R2 property behind it. And I think we're talking about 6 acres plus or minus. Might not be quite that much. And the request is to rezone this R4. The intent is to develop it as senior housing. It'll be rentals, 55 years of age and up. There will be six unit buildings. They'll be stacked, one across from each other from west to east. They back up to R2 zoning, and they actually R2 zoning to the south, the east, and the north. The commercial zoning to the west. There is an existing detention basin along the northerly boundary. 3 of the buildings will back up to the detention basin. And then there are several deep lots coming off, I think it's Crawford Street. And there will be 3 buildings, 6 units each, that will back up to those. We are requesting a 35-foot setback in there, 50 is required. We'd have to go to the ZBA there. And then at the end of the street that comes in off of Van Dyke, and it's just a driveway, not a street as such. It's a driveway to service the site. At the end of that street, we butt up against a single family house, basically butt up against their backyard. The intent is to develop it with sanitary sewer, water, storm sewer, full paving, landscaping. There will be open space area, recreation area on the site. That's pretty much it. There'll be 1-story buildings. It's debatable right now whether they're having basements or not.
Okay. You mentioned that it was on R2 and that it borders, abuts R2 in every direction, but the commercial that your client had developed, I believe it's R1B.
That's R1B, I'm sorry, R1B.
All right.
Yes.
Little different, yeah. I guess, I'll start off my, and I know that's, this has been a bit of a, oh, here we go. Did you want to run through this?
Excuse me?
Can
I
you see
shared the screen, Bill, for you.
All right, someone driving this, or how's this work?
I can't get my share screen to work.
Whoever's driving, I don't want to be a passenger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I've got a PowerPoint presentation and I can't get it to.
I think, yeah. Why don't you unshare that? We're just gonna proceed.
Are you able to open the screen? Do you guys all see that screen or no?
Well, we saw that screen, but again, if we've got the person that's supposed to be making the presentation, can't control it. It really doesn't make sense. So we're just going to proceed. We'll offer comments from the board, the commission, and then I'll open it to the public to offer their comments and questions, and then then we'll bring it back whomever to sort of address maybe some of those things. Again, I have concerns just about the density of what you're proposing, and frankly, the rear elevations look like barracks, and also like a barrack with a 50-foot setback. I mean, it doesn't look like R4. It looks a lot more dense, and I understand that if you designated, given our ordinance, a senior designation, your housing designation, you can get an increased density, but frankly, that only exists where it makes sense to do it, not just to allow, from my opinion, to jam more things into into an area. And there, it's hard to tell whether I guess I do see them now, that there are doors that, and I don't know if there are proposed to have patios out the back of these things, which would then encroach real far into, at least on the units that are on the southern portion of your development. So those are some of my sort of initial concerns and comments. To the board, anyone else wish to ask any questions or offer any comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner.
I kind of agree with you 100%. We have to do what makes sense. So the question I have for the applicant, either one wants to answer it. You're proposing that you want to develop this as R4, which really what you're proposing is R4 plus. Why do you believe this cannot be developed as R1B?
It would be very difficult to develop as R1B. You're nesting 6 or 7 houses back behind the commercial. You have a driveway going back there that's going to be very near somebody's backyard, so people off Crawford Street.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it just doesn't seem to fit well, even though there's all, R1B around it. When the sites were developed, this was left isolated all by itself. It doesn't connect physically to any other R1B in the area. Its sole access is through the commercial property to the west.
I think it's a judgment call of whether or not you think it would fit. But question I have too, so you're suggesting with your rezoning and your conditional rezoning that your R4 plus zoning is the only thing that you could put there is the senior housing. That's what you contend is the only plan you could put there?
It's the best plan that we see to fit there, yes.
That's debatable, but what hardship is on the property which would warrant going from R1B to R4?
Limited access through Van Dyke, no other actual connection to R1B property.
That's it?
That's all that comes to mind right off the top.
You also mentioned that you were going to jump right to the ZBA. I noticed you are going to need some pretty serious variances for your setbacks in the south and east property line and for the distance between the buildings. To me, that indicates this property is way overdeveloped. You're going to need these kind of variances to make it work. I like Mr. Moffat's comparison to barracks. I personally, maybe I can be sold somehow, but I do not believe this use is proper for this location. It goes back to the what makes sense option. So, I'm not convinced at this point that your rezoning is a good idea for this particular property. Just wanted to get that out there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I don't disagree that R1B may not be appropriate there, just given how that parcel is sort of bastardized over the years. But what you're proposing is way too. I think there may be a more creative way to address that. But what you've proposed, at least in my opinion, is not even close to being adequate for that. So, any other board members wish to comment?
I do have a concern as well, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The density, I agree with both of you on that. It looks like it's just kind of crammed in there, and the lack of green space. I know there's like a small little recreation area, but they're really, you're wanting this to be an R4, but yet what are you offering for that change? I have a hard time with that, the lack of green space. And the other thing that and it might be really premature, of course, but as far as the master deed and bylaws go, would these be allowed to be rented to others, or are these just sales?
These are to be rented. It's a rental community.
It's a rental. Oh, I was under the assumption that these are actually going to be sold as condominiums.
It's not intended to be a site condominium.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other board member wish to comment? I'll open it up to the public in a moment. You know, and let me, you know, you mentioned that you wanted to go to this, you know, going to the ZBA before this process is a bit going like putting the cart before the horse too. And I serve as the planning commission's representative on the zoning board of appeals. Typically, you know, we have ordinances and we have, and it really, you know, a self-created issue before the ZBA has a little less weight than something that occurs that someone didn't anticipate. So let me just, you know, mention that to you as well. Last, I'm sorry, did someone want to comment?
Yeah, Mr. Moffett,
Mr. Grote.
a question for Ms. Message. Can this property be developed with single beautiful homes?
I think the rezoning, I think Mr. Grott, the rezoning, there are some you know, reasons why perhaps it can't be developed as zoned. It is a kind of it's become an infill parcel with one access off of Van Dyke. So I don't think the density here is appropriate. While there may be some conditions that would warrant maybe, you know, R2 or R4, but going above and beyond that, I think is unacceptable. I think trying to add that caveat of the assisted, you know, or the age restricted living to double the density, I don't think is appropriate for this site.
So homes.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, R1C, I don't see why R1C wouldn't work here. You know, you can do straight road in there with a few houses. I mean, granted, you're not going to get the density that the applicant is looking for, but I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't be developed as smaller single family lots.
There was Ms. Mrs. The one single driveway. That was a choice for developer's choice when they developed the commercial property, correct?
That is correct. I feel like we're backing into this site now. You know, we you know, developed the front, and you know, you have a nice plaza there. I know he's doing very well, but I feel like now this parcel has been created with one access point, and we're, like I said, backing into it instead of, you know, looking at it from a different angle when it was originally you know, parcel.
Okay. Thank you very much. You answered my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions from the board, we'll open the public hearing. This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this rezoning request. Your remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. The Planning Commission is a recommending body. The Township Board will take into consideration these comments when making the final decision on the rezoning. At this point, anyone is free to offer their comments, ask any questions. You get one shot at it though, so try to be thorough with whatever issues you want to raise. I'm going to ask our tech person to sort of explain how best to sort of access. I think there's a you know, a raise your hand function, and then when you do that, he will call on individuals as he sees them, and you know, we'll go through this.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll be using Zoom's virtual hand raising to let us know that you want to speak. If you're on a computer, go to the bottom of the screen where it says raise hand and click that button. If you're on a smartphone and using the Zoom app, you're going to have to look for the 3 dots in the lower corner of the application. Press those dots and then press raise hand. If you're on a phone, you're going to have to press *9 to raise your hand. And once you've been called upon, press *6 to unmute yourself. First off, we have Jeanette Kowalski. Would you like to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay, I would need your name and address too, please.
Sure. Jeanette Kowalski, 3980 Keller Road in Fulton, Michigan, former resident of Shelby Township and of Crawford Street. And I come today before the board because I still have many residents on Crawford that are friends as well as family. And this is also a continuation of the many years that we've been becoming before the board with these requests. So can I please start off by saying thank you to the board for allowing us to speak tonight and taking this matter seriously, because it impacts a lot of people and our quality of life. The first point I'd like to bring up, and I believe the board has already addressed this, but R1B is and R1C are feasible, and the burden of proof should lay with the applicant to prove that it is not. It is zoned R1B. He bought it as R1B. His buyer's remorse is no effect to us. You don't buy something and say, oh my gosh, now I want to remodel it and then take it back to the store. That's how things are done. The applicants chose to build C1 first prior to this establishment. They pigeonholed this property of their own accord. With that being said, he is trying to put R4 plus between two residential R1B streets. Yes, there is no access to the other surrounding streets. The only access point would be Van Dyke. There are other options that are available, nor does he want to explore those as he has for the past 7+ years. With that being said, if putting R4 between two residential streets would not be aesthetically pleasing, nor would it complement the surrounding neighborhood. And there was a point brought up about C1 being in the front. All of our R1B neighborhoods have C1 in the frontage of our streets. We have neighbors that are right next door to C1. So that is, in my opinion, an invalid excuse. He knew what he purchased. He does not have the right to. I'm speaking, please. He knew what he purchased, and now that he wants to turn it into something else, it's going to be at the cost of the taxpayers and the people in the surrounding neighborhood. He knew when he purchased that he was purchasing a piece of property on FEMA floodplains. What assurances are?
It's not FEMA floodplain.
All right.
Am I allowed to speak?
No, go ahead.
What assurances do the citizens in the area have that, once again, we're not going to allow a developer to come into the area, put a heavily dense buildings, and then push the floodwaters out into the surrounding neighborhood, and we have a repeat of the Four Bears Water Park from several years ago? Who is going to protect the citizens from the developer? The developer is making money at the expense of the people who have lived in this neighborhood for 40+ years. Who's going to protect the citizens when they get $1,000 worth of electric bills? Sump pumps are burned out. Nobody's protecting the citizens. Another point of concern is noise pollution. Each side, north and south, will have 18 air conditioners on each side. If you were to have R1B, we would not have all this noise in the backyard. Light pollution, even with putting shield guards, putting low wattage bulbs on those back decks, even with the green belt, you're still going to have an illuminated area. I don't think anybody on this board would want 18 light bulbs in their backyard when realistically you could have 3 or 6. There's a huge difference. The imprint will be massive to the residents in the area. When this is built, R4 was told to us by the assessor's office that it would degrade the property values in the area. What assurances are these citizens going to have in regards to having their property values protected? Once again, can I talk or no?
Yeah, no.
Thank you. So what assurances are the citizens going to have in regards to retaining their current market values of their homes? When I spoke to the Macomb County Drain Commission, there's been no current survey done on the Cannon Drain after the 26-mile road developments. The Cannon Drain's already taxed. He has an easement from one of the neighbors, but before anything of this dense nature was to be placed, would there be an additional survey done or an assessment done of the Cannon Drain for when all the water is displaced? I know that he has built the retention pond. It may be dry now, but it's also not in the wet season. It's also, you haven't placed a heavily dense, establishment on that property. That area is clay, and it has a very high water table. That retention pond does not have a fence, has a heavy slope, and I would be looking for some type of mandation when it does fill with water to protect the citizens in the area for a treatment plan that he would be mandated to. Also, when I contacted the Macomb County Road Commission, there's no current road survey done for this establishment either. Ever since the big developments up on 26 in Van Dyke, which we totally support, I mean, business has to occur and expansion is good. However, it's very hard to make a left or a right off of Pearson or Crawford at any given time. We pull out to the end, we'll wait 5-10 minutes to turn. There's no way of putting in turn lights. The additional traffic and the foot traffic on top of the commercial that he chose to build, I would want to see a road study done as well. And also, quite honestly, it's been a point of disrespectful already for the past 7 years to the surrounding neighborhood. When we built the C1, we have multiple police complaints. We have multiple noise ordinances. We had people working in all hours. We would be looking for assurances that the contractors, the builders, the applicants would be adhering to the Shelby Township laws and ordinances and making peace with its neighbors. We do not want to see our nice, quiet little neighborhood tore apart. So with that being said, I'll turn over the rest of my time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. There's just a few items I'm just going to address real quickly. In terms of like maintaining water on the site, the air pollution, the light pollution issues, any development that happens in this township has to go through our engineering, and there are standards and they have to meet the standards of our township. So I understand that those are concerns. Nothing is going to get developed there that won't meet what the town, our townships, the same standards that you and your neighbors have to live by. These people will have to live by. Okay, who's next?
Next is G8 Think. Would you like to speak? You'll have to unmute yourself.
You're muted, sir.
Is that me?
Yes,
There
that's
you
you.
Okay. You're speaking to me, Bill Spitz. Is that correct?
Yeah, if your screen is G8 Think, THINQ.
Oh, thank you. Yep, that would be me. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, my name is William Spitz, SPITZ, 8300 East Pearson. I agree with everything Mrs. Kowalski stated, and I'm glad she did it so elegantly. I've been in this Shelby Township for over 30 years now. We've dealt with a lot of this development. We've done with a lot of developers that are not very straightforward. I'm very disappointed in this developer in particular. For one, you've just stated it is feasible to do a R1B. So let's do it. You bought it. You knew what you bought. Build it, please. For the last 3 election cycles, this developer has tried to ram this rezoning into the middle of us, of the middle of R1B. Okay, you bought it, build it. I'm just so fed up with that attitude. We were gracious enough to go ahead and let him finish and finalize his commercial frontage. But at the same time, we had rejected the R4. Okay, 36 units, unacceptable. She addressed the FEMA floodplain issues and the Four Bears Park, which costed our township millions of dollars. She also addressed the noise pollution of 36 air conditioners. Now the lighting, you made a comment about the lighting. I have an issue with the lighting with Verizon still from the start of their inception here on Van Dyke that has not been resolved. So lighting is an issue for me because we're looking at 36 units plus possibly 72 coach lights. Okay, this will not only degrade our property value, it is definitely not aesthetically pleasing nor complimentary to our neighborhoods, period. What else did I want to say here? I'm just so against this. He's had so many opportunities to do the right thing. You can do R1B, you can do houses. I don't even see why you can't even do detached condos. Again, detached, not attached, but detached condos. You have plenty of opportunities to do the right thing here. And that's all I have at this time. Do you have anything else?
Well, if he has all that traffic coming in on one street, how is that feasible? I mean,
Yes, all that traffic out of one street. My wife is saying also, yeah, you're looking at 72 cars if each
don't even have a
own two
street.
cars. Yeah. All right. And again, that would be on the, you'd have to have a road survey done on that. So at this point, I would like you all to say no. Thank you.
Okay, who do we have next? Thank you, sir.
Next up, it's Linda's iPad. Linda's iPad, would you like to speak? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hello?
We can hear you. Can't,
Okay.
there we go. Now we
I'm
can see you.
sorry. It's the first time I've used it, so this is a little daunting for me. My concerns too are when they change the topography of the land back there, if you're going to allow 36 units and 18 units on my side, my property and a couple of the neighbors on each side of me is lower. Is theirs going to be higher where it floods me? I have all clay in my backyard. Every year I have at least 12 ducks in a pond until it dries up. Sometimes it takes from April to July. And it's basically, I've had the property tested. It's clay. It holds it in. So that's a real big concern for me, is if it's going to flood. Plus, I mean, I've burnt out a couple of my sub pumps in the basement during that period of time. And is that going to affect our sub pumps? That really worries me. Now, I had all my neighbors on this. I live on Crawford, 8255 Crawford.
Can I get your name too, ma'am, while you're,
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda Palumbo.
thank you.
And I mean, we have patios and we have decks. They're all going to face 18 lights. You know, I'd like to sit out there and enjoy it at night and not have to look at 18 lights glaring at me or just lighting up that end. That's, I mean, girl, there's only 5 of us neighbors. There's not that many porch lights that are going to glare on them. Plus, you know, the noise pollution. Has anybody done a study on 18 air conditioning units on Crawford side? Plus there'll be 18 on the other side for Pearson. And that, you know, I have the same concerns everybody else does. And I do have a hard time getting out of Crawford Street at times. And that street that they're going to go out of is between my street, Crawford Street, and Pearson. It's going to make it that much more difficult for us to get out. So I'm all for it. There should be a study on this. He knew what he was buying, just like I've lived here 50 years between 2 different properties on Crawford, backing up to this property. My father owned some of this property, and we all knew that what that was zoned as. I mean, if it had been zoned something different, we never would have bought. But to change it now on us and, you know, to devalue our property because one man wants to do what he wants to do. I realize he wants to make a profit. I would like to keep the value of my home. So, you know, basically I've got all the same concerns as everybody else. And Mrs. Kowalski said it very eloquently, put it to just the way I think most of us feel. So that's about all I can add right now.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Galaxy J7 Star he seems to have been patiently waiting. So why don't you open it? There you go.
It looks like he does not have his microphone hooked up right now. So we will move on to area code 586, last 3 numbers, 891. Would you like to speak?
Hi, this is Andrew Newfang. I live on East Pearson, address is 8333. I feel the same as all the other calls that have been coming in. A couple things that, you know, stood out to me was the single point access when they were talking about that. You know, living on Pearson, we have single point, we have, the added sub in the back. It does take us, and sometimes 5-8 minutes to pull out. Sometimes I have to make a right, go down a block, turn around to make a left out of my street. Adding this many more units, we're just packing up the area so much more, and the traffic is also really bad. The other thing that really concerned me is rental. When he said rental, everybody in this neighborhood, in Crawford and here, we've all worked like really hard, and we've bought our houses. We've got like long-term, skin in the game. And when you start saying rental and you're going to throw that right in the middle, that's really concerning. We've worked a lot. I've lived in Shelby Township for 42 years. I've lived here since I was 8. And so, it getting built up and stuff, that's exciting, the businesses we have, but to pack a whole lot more like houses or rentals right in the middle of 2 neighborhoods that are just, we're houses, we have our yards and we mow them, and it's just, it doesn't fit. I don't see this as a good solution. So, I just wanted to say my piece.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Who do we got next?
Galaxy J7 Star still does not have a microphone, so we move on to Gwen. Would you like to speak, Gwen? You'll have to unmute yourself.
I just want to respond to, my name is Gwen Springer Baskin. I am at 8277 Crawford.
I'm sorry, man. Can you say your last name again? It was a little muddled.
Hyphenated. Springer Baskin. Beskin.
Okay, thank you.
I've been here over 30 years now. The thing that caught my ear tonight in listening to you is that there's a driveway, not a road. They left a driveway to get to the property behind us. That's not safe for anyone living back there. I can see supporting single unit or single family housing, but to put in a barracks type of situation stacked on, next to each other, it's not safe. What if there are emergency vehicles that need to go in there at some point in time? I don't know that it's, I don't know what to call it, landlocked or whatever, but if they didn't put a road in and they only left room for a driveway, how could that even work? And that's really my question and all I have to say at this time, and I appreciate you letting me speak.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Galaxy J7 Star, you still do not have a microphone up, so we'll move on to area code 586473. Would you like to speak? You're on the phone. And it is star
Yes.
six. Yep, go ahead.
Paul Backus, 8400 East Pearson Street. I just want to add a couple more comments. I see where a lot of people are coming from on the, additional traffic. That is a huge concern because it's how dense it is now has, for me, kind of ruined the area. It was so much nicer before the Krogers and all the other stuff came in. But the flooding does kind of concern me because my house has the easement running his drain to the canyon drain. And what they did is they did an overflow swale in my backyard, which, to be totally honest, at the time I agreed to it, that was not what was promised or what I expected. But it's done. But I have noticed over the past year when we have heavy rains, their retention pond almost fills up just with the heavy rain, and they don't have anything else draining into it. So it does actually concern me that if they overbuild the area, that pond will exceed its limit. And then I'm going to have flowing water running through my backyard, which was actually intended for a 100-year flood. So that's just my big concern. So that I'm going to end now, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, one last time, Galaxy J7 Star. We'll give you a moment to see if you can get your audio going. I think he left.
Okay. Nope, he's back. Does anyone know sign language?
We have another person, area code 586, last three numbers 789. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I would.
Go ahead, sir.
Name is John Moran, 56205 Belford. And my question, one of my questions would be, is that what happens if this property cannot be rented to 55 over? They run into a problem, and they cannot rent it. That what would be the recourse then? Much less the road back. I have a feeling emergency vehicles would not like that single point of entry. And I know I looked at the prints last week. I noticed where along Crawford they had some swales and sewers, but I didn't notice any for the Belford part. And I'm wondering if swales or sewers would be incorporated there, and who would be responsible for maintaining those swales and sewers. My main thing would be also is that what would happen again if they could not rent to only 55 and over? Would that be opened up to any rentals then? And I sure wouldn't want to see that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Galaxy J7 Star.
I'm getting a lot of reverb. Are you guys?
Okay.
Is that better?
No, it is not. It is best to use headphones if you're going to actually speak and not have it go into reverb, because it's giving feedback. You're actually hearing yourself talk, and that's why it's doing that. So just let you know.
I reiterate what Janae and Bill said.
And that is all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Bring it back to the planner for her comments. Julie.
Thank you, Chairman Moffett. So I think we discussed this in depth, and I agree with the Planning Commission members, and I do feel that this is too dense, and that the access off of Van Dyke is I don't think is adequate, and I feel like again, like we backed into this site instead of moving forward appropriately, and now we're seeking variances. So to me, that's one indication too that this site is overbuilt. I mean, perhaps, duplex would work on the site, but again, I just did some quick math here with just an R4 zoning, they would be allowed 19 units based on the acreage there. And with an R1C zoning, they would be possibly allowed 14 units. So, in here, we're proposing 36 units. I really do think that is very dense. And my concern is too, with the fire lane at the very back of the property as well. So it's a T, fire lane, but I don't think that's adequately constructed, in addition to the landscaping there and sufficient space provided to screen the neighbor to the east. Again, there's guest parking too. There's only 8 spaces. I'm going to leave that up to the Planning Commission to decide if that's enough. In my opinion, we've seen in other developments that parking is always an issue with multiple family and not enough spaces for guest parking. So with that being said, I urge the applicant to seek other options for this site. Moderate screening is required for the property over to the west between the center and the proposed buildings. 25 feet is required in between each building, and 20 feet is proposed. So again, I think once we start seeking variances and the property is not, this product is not fitting comfortably on the site, is a problem in my opinion. I feel like we're already double dipping on the density, going with the age restricted, but then we're also seeking variances. So those are my biggest concerns. And
Okay.
also there's Chairman Moffett, there's also one more thing. Our zoning ordinance requires an existing or planned road right of way of 120 feet along a major road, which this lacks. So again, not something that I'm, that I can support fully.
I mean, I'll ask the petitioner this question, but let me get your thoughts on, I think everyone noted, or several of the individuals from the public noted the water issue on the site, and I don't know about they bantied a FEMA floodplain. I'm not sure that that's accurate, but what is the condition of the retention pond, the swale, the access to the cannon drain? How does that provide limitations to the development of this site too?
Well,
there is no 100-year floodplain.
You're gonna have a chance to comment. I'm talking to the planner right now, Mr. Thompson.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So as far as the retention goes, the engineer has reviewed this plan. So whatever is being constructed on the site, all those issues relating to drainage will be addressed during the engineering phase of this. Initially it's reviewed, but if this project or whatever project is approved, all the engineering regarding detention and the capacity of all the detention basins and fields are reviewed by the engineer and have to be constructed accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now to Mr. Thompson. Now I will just go through. Initial comments were, why do you feel so strongly that it can't be developed as R1B, R1C, or even or duplexes? Is it just a financial consideration from your clients?
I believe it's more financial from the clients, but I just personally can't picture single family back there.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I can't picture single family back there. It just doesn't seem to fit for me.
Okay. Why don't you address the water concerns that all the neighbors that abutted have had, seem to have issues with flooding. Even the individual that provided access to the cannon drain through his property has expressed that that the volume is much more than was initially represented to him.
We will be installing storm sewer along our south property line, catch basins back there, to minimize any overflow onto the Crawford Street properties. That will be extended into the detention basin. The detention basin is serviced by, I think it's 18 or 24-inch concrete culvert that runs out to the cannon drain. There's an overflow swale on top of that to handle any extreme storm events. The basin is sized according to township standards, and it's built according to the design. That's what all I can say there.
Okay. How about the concerns on your development and the impact on the property values to the neighborhood?
I don't have a response to that. I'm not an assessor. I can't give you an answer on that.
Fair enough. Okay. How about the need of a road survey or
Study. This is
Yeah.
the first time a traffic study has been brought up. If a traffic study is required, we can provide one.
okay. Flynn, that's right. Single point access, the planner. So how about rental? If your clients can't rent to the appropriate age demographic, what's their recourse? What do they plan to do?
I think they're stuck with that. They're contractually stuck with 55 and over.
Okay.
You can't rent it. It sits there until somebody wants to rent it.
Now, appropriateness to have access to the site, both from from emergency or from that number of vehicles.
When I mentioned this was a driveway, what I meant was it was not a dedicated 60-foot road. It's a 28-foot wide paved surface, just like any road in any subdivision. It goes all the way to the back and provides a turnaround for the fire trucks and emergency vehicles.
Okay. I think those were the issues that I identified. Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board and see if there's a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, before I do that, can I ask Mr. Thompson a quick question?
Sure.
During your presentation, Mr. Thompson, you said it was debatable on the basements. What is debatable about it?
Well, the depth of the sanitary sewer.
Because of the sanitary sewer?
Yeah, the sanitary sewer might not be deep enough to service the end units.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to close the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So our motion this evening must be based on the following standards. The practicality of this rezoning request and the effect on the surrounding area, the owner's right to use his land, do current growth and development patterns warrant this rezoning, and is the proposed rezoning in accordance with the master plan? This evening, we can recommend approval. We could disapprove the request, or as the petitioners requested, that we table for them to address some of the engineering issues and some zoning appeal issues further. And with that, I'll entertain a motion, one of those three motions.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I will move to postpone conditional rezoning application number 6-19 from R1B, one family residential, to R4 multiple family low rise, and site plan number 21-06 for Demanio de Mercurio, based on the applicant revising the site plan according to the Department of Engineering comments. And I would certainly hope, it's not part of the motion, but a last comment, that that the applicant did get our message loud and clear tonight at the Planning Commission.
Support. Okay, moved by Turner, support by Apone. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Apone?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Gratt?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner? I'm sorry. Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder? Commissioner Snyder?
Have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. Next item is a re-review of a rezoning petition number 04-20 and site plan number 20-19, Phil Bergeri for Altair Active Adult Community. Now we have conducted the public hearing on this issue, but typically comments are limited towards under public comment at the end of the meeting, recognizing that this issue did have a great deal of attention when we had the public hearing. If someone wants to comment after the petitioner and the planner have offered their comments and the board's asked their questions on something that's changed, not something that we've already addressed. If something that Mr. Jerry has changed from his previous presentation, I'll allow any questions or comments on those items. But we're not going to sort of rehash all the issues that were raised at the public hearing previously. So with that, I'll ask, I see Mr. Ruggieri's on the call. If he's making the presentation or who on your behalf is making the presentation, why don't you go through and brief review of what you're proposing, maybe a couple of reasons, but more specifically, okay, what has changed from when last we heard from you? And you need to unmute yourself, which I'm sure you don't hear often, Mr. Ruggieri, but you need to unmute yourself.
Is it on? Oh, there we go.
You're good. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Phil Ruggieri as the petitioner in this matter for my partnership. Julie has done a nice job of outlining in the plan review report, so I won't reiterate that information. If I could have Julie allow Mr. Epping to share his screen, I can go through the most pertinent portions pertaining to the revisions at the same time.
Okay.
Screen sharing is active.
There you go, perfectly. Thank you. As you all recall, this is an Altair. It's a restricted 55 and up community, and it's involving 10.43 acres at the northwest corner of 25 and Mound. And if we can turn right to the proposed changes, keep flipping, Jim. Let's get to the proposals. Okay, this particular plan was the, oh, I'm sorry. Can you go to the old plan first, Jim? Yes, this is the original plan that we had. As you can see, the entrance or road system off of 25 was considerably closer to the adjacent property owner. We put the detention and buffering along the west portion to aid the property owner to the west that would remain adjacent. And the carports and parking would primarily be in the center of this particular site. We received several comments from the public at large, and we took notes of what the Planning Commission had proposed, what issues, and we spent time as early as this afternoon with the adjacent property owner, and are very pleased to state that they were very cooperative, and we likewise were as cooperative with them to work out some issues, which I'll address in just a moment. But basically, if you can go to the next slide, please, Jim. This is the new site plan, and if you compare it to the old, what we basically have done, if you look at the road system on the view from the original plan, it was 145 feet from the property line to the westerly portion. Now we've moved it, it's 320 feet from that property owner, and it's more centered in the property. That's a considerable difference for that neighbor. It lessens any traffic that goes in and out of the site. It keeps it to the center of the property and gives them the quietness that they're anticipating and requesting. The next is the two buildings that are abutting 25 Mile Road have now been displaced. With planning's review, we were able to remove the detention pond that was in the northwest corner and take that detention and bring it to the along Mound Road and along the frontage to create two water features, which create, utilizing it for twofold. One would be detention and also for a water feature, much similar to the Aurora Park that's further down to the east. And what we've done is we've shifted two of the buildings from 25 Mile, the furthest one to the east, just before you get to the protected area, and then also moved the other building closer to where the detention was. And then we broke up the carport area to the left and have that two-fold configuration, which centers the buildings. And now these buildings are significantly further from 25 Mile Road. Originally, it was 80 some feet from 25. It's hard to read that. 88 feet from 25 Mile, and now it's 155 feet for the single building, and the rest are significantly brought in the back. And also, we've got extensive landscaping to fill in where the buildings have been removed along the frontage on 25 and along Mound. So in effect, what we've done is softened the entire appearance and curb appeal of this site along 25 Mile and likewise along Mound Road. And the outlets, both off of 25 and Mound, are a lot crisper. The traffic pattern is much crisper, cleaner for emergency vehicles and what have you. Now, the adjacent property owner had some concerns about the proximity of the buildings and the landscaping. And we took a measurement of the back of the pool area where the resident was concerned about the privacy and utilizing their pool. If you look at the corners of the building to their pool area, even though it shows 75 feet from the property line, that building is actually 110 feet in distance. Okay, and likewise, building 3 way in the back is considerably more. So what we've done is we sat down with a very nice couple. It was Ken and Linda Weisnat, who had the most concern about the impact of this development. And we've reached a compromise. And if you can go back to the new plan, Jim, I want to point out there were 3 things that really were a consideration: is what type of buffering goes along that R1B area. And they were concerned about the carports right there. Then there's a dumpster here. And then over up in this area, just north of it, is the maintenance building. They were not sure about what the maintenance building consisted of. We told them that it's basically storage for things like parts for the toilets, light bulbs and things of that nature. It's not a full-time functioning building. They thought maybe we have snow plows and things like that in there, but we don't. That'll privately be done by third parties. So that put them at ease there. And then we told them that we can remove the carport in this area totally, because I think we have ample carports here and here. And then we'll just dense that area back up with more landscaping. And then we'll relocate this dumpster site to wherever engineering would like us to do it. The main concern for Mr. and Mrs. Wisnat is that boxing it in and making sure they don't have to be exposed to any kind of odors that you could have with the refuse. So we would work with the planning department and engineering in that regard. So with that, we also agreed to go on site to their property and along the easterly border of their pool and hot tub area, we offered to put right in this area some nice high arborvitaes, 8-foot arborvitaes in a whole row, which will give a double effect of privacy. Immediate impact on their pool, you'll not be able to see the pool with the arborvitaes, but then we've got the extreme dense landscaping along our westerly border, which is the only strip that is R1B. That'll be heavily landscaped with the trails for the overall system. So we feel we've accomplished quite a bit today meeting with them. And they've also asked if they could go on our property and removed some of the pine trees that would be taken out when we do tree clearing. And we said, absolutely. Once we do our delineation of preserving the conservation area to the north, whatever's going to be taken out, we'll let them have free access to it, take them out, and they want to replant them on their property. So we'll work in unison with them on that. And when the landscaping does take place, we will be sure to provide the arborvitaes. I am very pleased to state that this second plan is a considerable improvement, and I'm very, very much delighted by this layout, because when you have the ponding in the front, as we've stated, you've got a nice softening effect and water feature and much more landscaping. And with the inner trails along in here, we've preserved a nice natural feel to the site and spread the buildings out significantly so that they have very little impact, if at all, to the area. And as we iterated from our last presentation, this is not a traffic issue. This is not a noise issue. This is a 55 and up community, which is locked in by contract under the PUD, contract zoning, the financing by the bank, and by our representations. That'll always be contained as a 55 and up community. And as Julie's indicated in her report, are technically under the ordinance for senior housing of this nature, 55 and up, we could get as much as 160 units. And we're not looking for that. It's not about pushing a lot of density on the site. It's about putting the right product with the right space and the right amenities so that everybody feels comfortable and is on the same page in the surrounding area. Being that I'm a resident for 36 years in Shelby Township, I do not want to have something here that is going to be a problem for the area or nor the township and nor the residents. This is one of our keeper properties. We have done a very similar project on 26 Mile in Washington Township, which was well received and approved by their planning commission just last week. That is going before the Board of Trustees on April 7th. This is a mirror image of what we're doing there. We feel that because this has more land, it's got more open space, more features, that'll be for the betterment of the entire project. You can see we have about 65% of this property is all open space. And we've got a nice park setting so that people can walk along the trail system that we've incorporated with some exercise equipment along the area. The carports are of a necessity because you've got seniors, you want to make sure that their vehicles are not exposed to the elements. That is the purpose behind even having carports, but they're tastefully done and they will have a nice masonry effect that'll mirror the image of the building. And to reiterate, in the entranceways, we have the brick walls that are about 6 feet in height with a combination of brick and stone with coach lights, and the colors will meet the color of the building themselves. So you've got a nice curb appeal, soft appeal, so that even though you've got 3-story buildings, they certainly will be similar to what a colonial or a split level in height would be. We've gone through the ordinance and made sure that we complied in that regard, and it's not causing any interference. And as I've indicated to the north, you've got better than 4.5 acres of all protected area, which will be a conservation area. Currently it has a lot of wildlife and so on, and we want to utilize that as a feature. And meeting with the planning department, we've been able to capture that more in depth by putting those buildings as close as we can to that wetland without disturbing that conservation area whatsoever. So with that, I leave this open for questions and comments by this planning commission. We feel that this is a great project for our community. It's a good, useful purpose of this land. We've done a lot to preserve the natural features and make this a harmonious development. It's substantially zoned R12 now. And as we've said at the last hearing, you can get about 80 units conventionally, plus an office building, and that is just going to create a traffic nightmare. This particular project, with the less density that we're requesting, will be a soft traffic concern because you've got 55 and up. The average ages are going to be in the 70s, and you're not going to have not even 10% of the traffic that normally is associated with the previous development, or not with the previous, but with the current allowance for this development. So with that, I'm here to answer questions. I have my team. We have our engineer, our architectural landscape architect is Jim Epping, and Pete Snyder from Urban Land is our engineer in this project. And we'll try to answer whatever questions you may have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Misic, why don't you offer your comments from planning?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. So back to the rezoning proposal, like Mr. Ruggieri said, a majority of this parcel is already zoned multiple family. So it's just the parcel to the west that's zoned R1B and the immediate corner, which is O1. So as far as the zoning goes on this property and according to the master plan, this is consistent, and I don't, there's nothing on this that, that would say that anything else would be appropriate at this location. Even with that, probably approximately 6.09 acres of it is zoned multiple family. So only 1 acre, the 1 acre of the office, and actually 1.8 acres is being rezoned, and the 2 acres from the single family residential, which is being used as a buffer to the property to the west. So I don't foresee a problem with that. Like Mr. Ruggieri said, they have left a lot of open space on the property to the north, And in addition, the detention ponds along Mound Road and 25 Mile, that is significant open space along there, in addition to not, visibly screening those buildings from the immediate roadway. The internal driveways of the site, I think, are fairly well designed, allowing the residents to exit onto 25 Mile if they're heading east or west, or, the driveway off of Mound Road going north or south. So that traffic impact, I don't see that happening. In addition to the residents being 55 and older, those types of people, you don't contribute to the peak hours of traffic. I don't believe most of them would be, perhaps retired or such. And with COVID, even if they're working, they're probably working from home anyway right now. Another feature I think is a great feature is the entrance landscaping that Mr. Ruggieri proposed for 25 in Mound. He's got the brick landscaping along with, the brick walls with the aluminum fencing, really dressed it up. I think it would look nice. I think if he has the ability to do some sort of a fountain in those detention ponds, that I would recommend doing something like that too. But other than that, minor modifications to the plans that have to be corrected. A lighting plan is required. Elevation plans for the maintenance building is required as well, which wasn't included in the set of plans. Ground cover and means of irrigation is required. 7-foot sidewalk along Mound Road and 25 Mile Road is required. But some other minor comments from assessing department: the parcels must be combined. Fire apparatus roads shall be available to within 150 feet of all portions of all the 3 buildings. So engineer had some minor comments, and like I said, I don't foresee any of those being difficult to be addressed. And I think the revised plan, as Mr. Ruggieri said, I think he did a good job, and I commend him on reaching out to Ms. Wisnat. I know I've been talking to her all week as well, and hopefully this puts her concerns, to rest, and she's able to accept this development as well. So that's all I have, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. To the board, does anyone wish to comment or ask any questions of the petitioner?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner.
I don't really have any questions, but I would like to say, Mr. Ruggieri, when the first plan came in back in November, as you recall, one of my biggest concern was the overbearing appearance of these buildings from 25 Mile Road. With your revised plan, I really have to commend you for this revised layout, and I must admit, I really like the new plan. It's much improved, and I want to thank you for working with the residents and working with the township to get from where we were back in November to where we are here tonight. And this definitely would have my support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. Does anyone else wish to comment? Okay, seeing none. Like I'd indicated, if someone wants to offer a comment on something new that Mr. Ruggieri is offering, that wasn't available at the previous public hearing, I'll entertain that. First, I'm going to call on the Wisnats, just because Mr. Ruggieri sort of indicated what their opinions were on things, and if they are available and wish to at least concur with what he had, with what their agreements were, I think we'd like to hear it. Not a mandate if you are on the call. And again, if you could hit. Okay, well, I tell you what.
Mr. Moffett, can I say something while Miss,
Yeah.
It looks like she got her, she unmuted herself. But before we go on, I just want to let you know, and I forwarded to the Planning Commission as well. This afternoon, we got a letter of opposition from Mr. John James. So I just wanted to state that for the record.
Okay, yeah, we did all receive that. Which number would that be that the Wisnats?
Oh, shoot, I don't know how to do this dumb thing.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Mr. Rogeri did take the time and he came over and talked to us, and I appreciate that. He is trying to work with us. I am still concerned about the first building right next to my house being 75 feet. If there was any way that it could be moved over like another 10 feet would be a lot better, because it'd be even with the one in the back. And after he left, I went out and I remeasured it, and 75 feet is still very, very close. And, you know, that's probably my biggest issue now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I see we have a number of other individuals. I'll ask why don't you start calling them off?
First off is Abra Walkers. Would you like to speak?
Hi, thank you. I just want, with all due respect, one concern, please. Thank you. By allowing any residential construction on that property, I feel you're putting the residents on the northwest corner of 25 and Mound Road in even more grave danger. For over 15 plus years, I have lived here. Families in this subdivision have been pleading with you, our board members, to produce a safe route to school for our children. 25 Mile Road is now a major thoroughfare for vehicles speeding up to 55 miles an hour while our children attempt to cross from a private driveway to Belrose. Our board members had a chance to rectify this situation with the Safe Routes to School project a few years back. But no, it was decided to be ignored, the safety, I imagine. But by allowing this construction, you are increasing by a lot more vehicles to potentially injure us and our children. You do not realize that.
Ma'am, these were issues, these very arguments were raised during our public hearing. Okay.
I didn't remember the safe route to school being mentioned. And it was just asking for some kind of safety for the children to cross there, and the more traffic would just make it more dangerous. There's already been deaths, and it's very scary for us. Thank you.
Ma'am, I live on Vincent Trail. I live about a quarter to half a mile due north of this site. So I drive by this location multiple times every day. And had three sons that went to Schweitzer and went to Mallow and went to Eisenhower without bus service and had to get there. So if anything, Mr. Ruggieri is assured that he's going to extend the sidewalk along Mound Road, which will make a big difference to.
That is a positive thing. Yes.
My sons are all now in their knuckleheads in their 20s and no longer have to worry about getting to school. But
there's more, texting and driving,
so what I'm telling you is it was a consideration as I consider these plans, because again, I lived it as well. So.
Of course, thank you. Yes, we're all in your sub with lots of new children here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is Lauren Bowers. Would you like to speak? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yes, please. Hi, my name is Lauren Bowers. I'm at 5587 25 Mile Road. I'm the owner of 2 houses to the west of this building plan. I'm against the proposal with the other 200 signatures from last meeting. On the original building plan, I saw that Mr. Ruggieri was able to fit his 3 buildings on the 8.5 acres that were already zoned for the building. I'm just curious why he needs the extra 2 acres that are residential, since now he's using at least like 1.5 acres, maybe even 2, to be turned into a large pond, and then shifting those 3-story high buildings next to my property and my neighbor's property. We could just keep those 2 acres that are already zoned residential, and we can keep a tax-paying family in that home, which could also benefit the school system if they have children, all of that, good things. It may be a less of an eyesore for Buscemi's with that lake there, but this is even worse for the residents on the left-hand side. If you step into my backyard or even into my front driveway, I can see those trees where building 2 is going. And since they're 3 stories high, I'm definitely going to be able to see them from my backyard, and they'll be able to see me in my backyard, invading my privacy. No amount of trees that will be able to block that view. If you've seen his site location photos, he's got nice green, luscious trees. But what happens in the winter when all of those trees lose their leaves and you can see right through them? I'm just concerned for my privacy. And I invite any of you to come stand in my driveway to see what I see. You know, photos are one thing, but in person it's another. I just rather have a residential home next to me than massive 3-story apartments. You know, I know we've already talked about the traffic situation, so I'm not going to go there as well. I'm just confused why the elderly would want to live in a massive school zone. Like just doing a simple Google search, there's over 30 55 and older community options readily available in Shelby Township. So there's not really a need for them. I would feel like maybe that would be better for something else. You know, I'd love to keep the open wildlife that we have now, but if Mr. Ruggiero wants to build something, I'd much rather it be nice residential homes that would add families to the area with less cars, less automotive accidents, that kind of thing. And just my last point is just, I see part of the Shelby Township mission statement is to serve the interests of our residents and to keep us safe. As you know, we already have over 200 residential signatures that are against this plan. And we have many residents on the meeting today, you could see, are against it as well. I just feel proceeding any further with this building would go against those wishes. I'm just very, very concerned with this, and I'm asking that you please consider keeping the residential zone location just to protect my backyard privacy, and just maybe take a step into the residential shoes for a moment, just empathize with why we moved to Shelby Township in the first place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we have one more call.
Next up is area code 586, last 3 numbers, 108. Would you like to speak? You'll have to unmute yourself. Since you're on a phone, that is *6.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I do want to address a couple of new issues, Mr. Moffett. But first, I would like to say that for the record,
can we get your name and address, please? Can I get your name and address, please?
I'm sorry. It's Ray Kulik, 55629 Nocturne Court. Again, I have a couple of newer issues here that you said that you want us to identify. But first off, I want to state here for the record that the attendees of the commission meeting tonight is different from the attendees that were at the last meeting. And so those, and from what I can tell from my quick looking, there's at least 2 different people. Those people are going to be voting tonight on issues that we raised as a group in the last meeting on November 23rd. I think it's really unfair. You're going to do what you want to do. I think it's really unfair for us not to be able to present any other information publicly, given that there are 2 different people on it, and the fact that you know, there are some things that change. Now, let me go to the 2 things that I wanted to talk about. Well, you know what I'm going to call, let me call it 3. And first off, it's directed as Mr. Turner. When I look at the minutes of the meeting, one of the things that when he made the proposal to postpone, the minutes say that he was looking for Mr. Ruggiero to come up with alternative design options, reducing the scale of the buildings. Well, my first question, I guess, is to Mr. Turner. I know you're excited now that Mr. Ruggiero came up with a nice plan and he backed some things up. But you had addressed, and I thought I remember you even saying it during the meeting, that you had concerns about how tall they were. So I'd like Mr. Turner to just speak to whether
You're free to offer your comments, okay? But you're not going to question a volunteered member on, you know, on a commission who aims and who does a lot of diligence on every item that comes before this board. Now, and you started off by saying that somehow that this is not fair, that there were 2 members that may have not participated. I don't know if you notice on your screen, it says recording up in the corner. All these meetings are recorded. So these people, our members do, when they miss meetings, go and view and so have seen, have had the privilege to see all the comments that were made. We adopt minutes of every meeting. So specifically, all right. So You have two other
I-
items.
I
Please go
accept
ahead.
that. If
We'll
you
go ahead
had
with
said that,
your comments.
I would have accepted it. So here's my question to you then as the chairman. Given that it was stated in the minutes, what you can say yes or no. Will anybody respond to the fact that it was, as I'm looking at the minutes right in front of me, it said it was going to be postponed and for him to discuss alternative designs reducing the scale of the buildings. If you're telling me you don't want to discuss it, I have no choice. I'll move on to my two items. I'm just posing the question, and I posed it to Mr. Turner because he, in the minutes, recorded it. It said, and you guys just voted to approve the minutes. I was just wondering if something has changed. So I won't direct it at him. I'll direct it at you.
I tell you, ask your other questions. If Mr. Turner at the end of these, there's one other person who wants to speak, chooses to offer his comments, I'll allow him to do that. I won't prohibit it, but then you'll know ultimately when he votes. So.
Okay, all right. Then two other things and it's part of this is a follow-up for the meeting. But let me say first, something that's happened that's new since the last time this meeting is us as residents, we're not privileged to know all the new construction and things that are going on. So since our last meeting, what I've noticed is there are three major projects other than this one going on 25 Mile Road. One is on 25 Mile Road, less than a mile west of this corner, and the other two are within a mile east. One of them is just behind the Marathon gas station. The other one is all the way down at the corner of Van Dyke and 25. Now, when we presented our arguments, we were concerned about traffic. And those three projects have now popped up. I could see empty fields at 25 and Van Dyke and maybe make some assumptions that, okay, sooner they're going to be building here. But with all the concerns that we have, this is a new item, Mr. Moffett, that these new constructions have popped up. Mr. Ruggieri's will be number 4 on 25 Mile Road in a 2-mile stretch. That dead center is going to be one of his construction sites. So when I'm done speaking, I'm hoping that somebody, as you lead into the vote, can at least address that issue to say how things have changed. Now, when Miss Misic talked, she seemed to keep talking about traffic with access onto 25 and Mound. She didn't talk about the other projects going on 25. That's number one. And number two, and then I'll turn it back over to you. Number two is that, and it's in the minutes, when I spoke at the last meeting, I spoke and brought up, and you had already known it, that we had a petition of 200 signatures. I expressed at that time that I was concerned that the board, the planning commission, I'm calling you the board, did not maybe have the full understanding of the residents in the area who were really against this. And if they knew how many residents were actually against it, then that might influence how they're going to vote. So when we did that and we said 200 signatures, I asked at the time, given COVID, we'll go door to door, we'll get more signatures. I was never responded to with that. And the way I look at it now is that I think that you might end up voting without knowing how many people are against it, but I don't think you should. Because if you said right now, I guess I'm looking to the board to say, in a situation like this, I know it's not a magical number, but how many signatures do you need? 500? Do you need 1,000? I'll go door to door in 2 square miles of this place if I have to go myself. And not only will I get 1,000, I'll get double that. That's how many people are against this. And what's happening, and I'll wrap up here, and I appreciate me being able to speak. What's happening is that we as citizens, yep, we spoke last time, we're not able to add any additional information. But here's the thing. This is not about how pretty or colorful in the things that Mr. Ruggieri is putting on that corner. What the ultimate decision should come down to is what is the safety, the public safety of kids, that stretch of traffic on that 25 mile is not wide enough, and everybody knows it. That I think that the board should address and talk about that issue for me and for others to say, was our petition a waste at 200? How many more do we need? Number one. And then if somebody can talk about those three major projects that are going to make traffic worse on 25, and I'll shut up and listen. Thank you.
Okay, who do we have next?
Next up, we have Ray, but it doesn't seem like he has a microphone, so we'll move on and go back to Ray, see if he can hook his microphone up. Let's go to TZ. Would you like to speak? You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'd like to echo the
Can I
actual.
get your name-
First, my name
name
is
and
Ted
address?
Zotos. Ted Zotos. I live at 54808 Aurora Park. I'm also the president of the association. I spoke
Are you-
last
sir,
time.
Yeah, you spoke last time. So
Yep.
I'm going to, a really short leash. What changed that's going to impact what you got to say? He's not
Well-
building any more houses. There's not going to be one more or one more room. So there's not going to be one more car, theoretically, based on what he's proposed. And I know that was a big issue you had.
No,
People
I know.
coming in there for it.
The issue was what the last caller stated. There is issue with 25 mile an hour, 25.
Okay,
mile-
yeah, we've addressed that. We knew of the developments. The underground was done on the one development towards Shelby on the north side of the road, and we're well aware that of the other developments, as it's in its relations to this. So what is new that you want to bring?
So
up
what
again?
again? What's the capacity? Because you mentioned about the size of the three buildings, and why couldn't it be a 2-story building as opposed to 3 stories? Because it's not the same size as a Colonial, as Mr. Ruggieri mentioned. How many residents are you talking about? Number one, potential residents.
These were issues. These were issues that sustain. It was 108. It was 108 units. I think it's 108 units now. So that's nothing has changed. You had an opportunity to speak, and you did the last time, I recall. But I think we're going to move on, unless there's something real specific to something that.
I'm asking. You mentioned about it decreasing size, so
I didn't say
that's
anything.
not.
It's not at all. I'm just I got just telling you is the exact same number of units he proposed a month ago or whenever he was here before. It's the same number he has now.
And these individuals, it was actually the area. It wasn't even the residents next door with the big concerns. It was the entire area. It was the traffic of the entire area. It wasn't even. It wasn't.
We get that. That point has been made very clear to this body, and the body is going to consider that when it makes its recommendation ultimately to the township board that's going to make the decision. So I'm going to cut you off now, and I think there's one more person that's got their hand up.
Okay, area code 586, last 3 numbers, 706. You're going to have to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Pamela Ulrich. My address is 6026 Fordham Drive. I never went to the public meeting for this, but I have been drawn into this recently. And I do know from history with Mr. Ruggieri that he does have another proposed property at 25 in Mound, which will increase traffic. We have an issue with him at 24 in Mound. All he is bringing to Shelby Township are multi-family complexes. Nothing into consideration, as the previous caller stated about it being a 55 and older community. Many 55 and older communities have changed their age limit because of that, because they can't get the filling. We have multiple family complexes here that are readily vacant and available. We don't need to be increasing this type of traffic flow into Shelby Township.
Okay, ma'am. So, I mean, those issues were raised and they've been made very clear to us.
My concern is Mr. Ruggiero himself and you constantly allowing this. You will always get a headbutt with me on this subject.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Yeah, he has another complex wanting to be put in at 24 and Mound. So you can look into that too. But I'm just voicing opposition to this, as many thousands of other residents have. So thank you very much.
Okay, ma'am. All right, we have one last caller.
Michael McCuston.
Hello, my name is Michael McQuiston. I live at 5587 25 Mile Road. I'd just like to reiterate there are 268 proposed apartment units. 108 would be going into the 2-acre residential zoned area. Now it will be even more since this new proposed design has 2 buildings in this residential zone, and I'm against. That is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back to the board. The one call in, I think I alluded to it earlier. The projects that he wasn't aware of at the previous, this board was aware. This board acted on those projects and understand. I mean, what we're addressing here is a piece of property that's not zoned single family. It's not like we're taking single houses and turning it into a multi. It is a property that was predominantly zoned R12, which is exactly what Mr. Ruggieri is proposing. The question we're asking is, do we want to take, there's an office portion, a 1-acre portion that could have offices on it, and change that to the R2, also to give some consideration for that, to allow him to use it for entire in R12. And the thing was, for the density he could get in the office, frankly, he's getting less density, and that's the trade-off for what he's been proposing. And that's the decision that we're just going to recommend that ultimately the township board is going to vote on. So with that, unless any of my colleagues want to comment,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate your point. I'm one of the new people, and I was fully briefed on this coming into this. So I just wanted to let everyone know that that is going on, and I'm fully aware of the entire situation.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Turner. Oh, Mr. Turner, did you want to address the comment on the individual's question? That's up to you.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I honestly would like to say that I do appreciate the residents actually look at the minutes and read the minutes, because not many do, and those that do, I think they pick up a lot from them. As you stated, Mr. Chairman, we're a recommending body. We view the plan or any plan that's presented, and we make the best case that we can for or against, and we pass it on to the township board. They make the final decision. Now, if we're going to talk about the minutes, let's take them into context. I stated in the minutes, the last time the request came in front of the board, I opposed the project due to traffic impacts and that there was for a general rezoning with no plan. That's a fact. It also says he, me, likes the layout and look of the plan, but from the street, that being 25 Mile Road, to see 3-story apartments I'm not sold on. So my whole concept was trying to soften the appearance from 25 Mile Road and coming up with a redesign that would do that. I believe this plan does. Some might disagree, and I respect their disagreement, but that is part of it. That's about, and one final thing, to say that I'm excited about the plan, no, I think that's not really accurate to say I'm excited by it. Let's just say I'm pleased that Mr. Ruggieri listened to the public, worked with the Planning Commission to come up with a revised development that we have to look at, and again, make our best case presentation to or for or against to the board for their ultimate consideration. That's how the process works. So I just wanted to kind of set the record straight in a way and take all the minutes into context. Don't pick and choose what you want to hear or what you want to see to try to make your point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. At this point, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Turner.
I'm going to move to forward to the Township Board, conditional rezoning petition number 4-20 and preliminary planned unit development site plan number 20-19 for Altair Active Adult Community to be rezoned from R1B, one family residential, and O1 professional office to R12 multiple family residential, and the preliminary planned unit development with a finding that the proposal has merit and has the potential to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance and applicable PUD requirements to allow filing for final PUD based on the following. 1, the proposed rezoning and planned unit development is consistent with a majority of the current zoning on the property. 2, the planned unit development meets all the criteria in the zoning ordinance and conforms to the R12 multifamily ordinance requirements. 3, the change is not out of scale with existing development pattern in this area of the township. 4, the change in zoning would provide a more uniform and consistent development pattern. 5, the submission of a conditional rezoning along with the PUD site plan assures the township that the proposed development will not exceed the density as proposed on the PUD site plan. And finally, number 6, the PUD site plan encourages useful open space and recreation areas and innovation in land use based on the design and layout of the site.
Support.
Okay, moved by Turner, support by Apone. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Apone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Grott,
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay.
Thank you very
good luck.
much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Thank you all.
Next item is under Planning Director's Report, the 2020 Annual Report.
Thank you, Chairman Moffett. Under the Michigan Planning Enabling Act requires the Planning Commission to make an annual report to the legislative body concerning its operation and the status of the planning activities, including recommendations regarding actions by the legislative body relating to planning and development. For 2020, I see on the memo I put 2021. I guess I wanted to forget about 2020. So based on the annual report, last year, the Planning and Zoning Department processed 327 applications. This is actually a decrease from the previous year of 419 applications processed. Part of this decrease is based on the township's business relief initiative for the businesses in the township. Typically, we require sign permits, temporary sign permits, where we would also charge a fee. And Mr. Grott, along with the business relief initiative, decided in order to help the businesses through the COVID-19 pandemic that we were not going to require temporary sign permits and fees, and also not require fees for temporary use for outdoor dining or tents. They would have to submit the application, but the fees would not be charged. So based on that, that was a difference of 90 applications. So I can say that that's where the difference is in application, in the decrease in it. But overall, our planning department has been busy, and we have a number of projects that we also work on, on a yearly basis, which is the community development block grant. We installed sidewalk from on Shelby Road, on the east side of Shelby Road, north of 24 Mile, and that was one of the projects. We work on the capital improvement plan as well with the township blight initiative program. We work collaborative with the building department and code enforcement, and that is actually the #1 priority for the community visioning. Again, last year we worked on the zoning. We work on zoning ordinance amendments. I have a number of them that are in the works right now. They were kind of put on the side based on the marijuana ordinance that we were working in the last half of the year. So we ended up passing that along with building department and the attorneys with their help. We were able to pass that by December. The other area that we work in, and I think this is the Geographic Information System, and I think this has been a huge help for brokers and real estate people and everybody and everybody else that has the use for this type of the need. I mean, we have our zoning maps online, we have a sidewalk map online, we have anything that we can get on that we feel that would be useful for the residents. Nick Fiore is the one in my department that generates these maps, so I think he's done a wonderful job in updating them and keeping them up to date. Additionally, this was brought up at the last in the last conversation. We also have a map online, a GIS map, where one can actually go in and zoom on any portion anywhere in the township and pull up what's going on, if a variance has been received for a particular property or what's being proposed for a particular property. So this is all transparent to all the residents in the township, and they are able to view what developments are going where. They would just have to zoom in on this particular location and they would have all the details that they would need without having to make a call to our department. Like I said, based on that, our department's been busy and we continue to be busy as we haven't slowed up. So with that, if you guys have any questions, if not, I request a motion to move it to the township board.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Phil, any questions? No? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pone,
move to accept the Planning and Zoning Department's annual report for 2020 and forward the report to the Board of Trustees for their consideration.
is there support for that motion?
Support.
Moved by Pone, support by Snyder. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Pone?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Grott?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
And Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Very good. Next item is business from the floor. If anyone wishes to have 3 minutes to comment, raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Moved by
Support.
Turner, support by Gonzalez. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We're adjourned. All right, thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Good night.
Be healthy.
Good night.
Get your shots.